Hello, Ms Powell. Thanks for joining us on the programme. What does Labour think? Should this protest go ahead on Armistice Day?
Well, as others have said on your programme, these are matters for the police who have operational independence. But I think if, obviously, we wouldn't want these two things colliding. We would want that remembrance events and remembrance Sunday and Armistice events on the Saturday as well can go ahead peacefully, undisturbed, and away from any other protest that might be taking place. That's really important. It's a very, very important day for this country every year that we remember the fallen of our previous wars and conflicts. So if the protests can happen elsewhere at a different time and the police can feel they can manage that, that's a decision for the police.
OK, but if they came to a Labour government and said we'd like to stop this going ahead, that would be something that would be listened to favourably?
Well, they have operational independence for those things. And yes, of course, if they say they can't manage all of this peacefully and they can't manage to police things appropriately, then of course we would listen to what the police had to say and act accordingly.
One of your colleagues messaged me last night to say that his office had been vandalised several times last week and that it's pretty unpleasant at the moment. Is Keir Starmer managing the situation as far as Gaza and the Middle East is concerned as well as he could?
Well, look, it is pretty unpleasant at the moment. It's particularly unpleasant for civilians and those living in Palestine and in Gaza. It's particularly difficult for families of those with hostages who are still being held by Hamas in Gaza. And I think all of our focus should be on that situation and how it can be mitigated. And look, it is a challenge, and we're all watching it every evening on our screens. And I think something that we can all agree on, everybody in the Labour Party, and I'm sure most people, vast majority of people in this country, what we could agree on is that we all want to see an end to this conflict, an end to the cycle of violence, an end to the needless loss of life. And we want to see the hostages freed. And that we also want to see a peaceful, political, long-term solution to what is happening to end this cycle of conflict that's gone on for decades. And that to get there, we need to establish that there would be a two-state solution with a viable and a free Palestine, self-governing Palestine, and a safe and secure Israel. And these are the founding sort of principles on which we apply everything else. And I think the vast majority of people in the Labour Party and the country would agree with those principles.
What's your experience been of people frustrated over the last couple of weeks?
Well, like many colleagues, I mean, I represent a very diverse constituency here in Manchester. Manchester has a long-standing large Jewish community, and we have a large Muslim community, and we have many, many other communities as well who are very concerned about what is happening in Israel and Gaza and the direct impact it's having on their families and loved ones, some who've got family and friends over there, and the impact it's having on all of us emotionally as well. So, yeah, I mean, I've had protests at my office as well, and we have a lot of people getting in touch with me all the time about this situation, and it is a very difficult one for us all to look at, and and we don't have that much power and influence over what is happening, and I think that's why Keir Starmer has taken the view that based on those principles that we want the violence and the needless loss of life to end, that we want a two-state peaceful political solution, that the most effective and quickest way of getting there is to go with that international community push to get a humanitarian pause so that we can get aid into Gaza and that we can have a pause in hostilities that may allow for some of the hostages to be freed, and that then we have to work as an international community together to get that long-term peaceful political solution that's so desperately needed. And this has to be a moment where everybody redoubles their efforts towards that outcome.
Okay. Is living rough in a tent a lifestyle choice?
Absolutely not. And I think the comments of the Home Secretary are despicable, really, and they speak to what this government's whole meaning now seems to be about, which is creating more division where division isn't needed, by trying to inflame sort of false wedge political issues. We all see, don't we, the consequences of those sleeping rough, and it's heartbreaking to see. And in the vast majority of cases, it's people who have got nowhere else to go and who have a multitude of issues that they face that they need to deal with. It has left them where they are at that time, sleeping rough. Often addiction, often abuse, former veterans, people who are suffering from serious mental health challenges, people with no home, obviously, and no money and support, often estranged from their family. And what we've seen here in Manchester, and Andy Burnham's led this really well, is that you can only really tackle rough sleeping when you put around the system that whole care. You go for a housing first approach, but then you immediately put the support that people need to keep them off the streets. But I certainly wouldn't describe it as a lifestyle choice. And I think bringing in new laws to stop people providing tents to homeless people, I can't think of anything that speaks more to a government that's given up on real governance, that's run out of ideas and that's run out of road, and that really has no answers to the big question this country faces, and is just trying to fill a parliamentary programme with things that we don't even need laws for.
Sure. Let me ask you one more question before I let you go. We're running out of time. Sorry about that, Ms. Powell. But we know that the government is looking for these oil and gas licences, going to be issued new oil and gas licences for the North Sea. We've heard from Extinction Rebellion, we've heard from Oxfam Scotland, we've heard from Greenpeace. None of them are in favour. I believe that Labour are not in favour either. So will you reverse these contracts if and when you get into power?
Well, yes, but I mean, we've got a long way to go till then. Look, this announcement today, it's not even needed anyway, because we have regular licensing rounds. So it's just something they're bringing in to try and create a division with Labour rather than it needs doing anyway. But it's going to do, as I actually heard the Energy Secretary herself say this morning, it's going to do nothing to reduce people's bills, and it's going to do nothing to create energy independence in this country. And we've got a really clear plan about how we are going to reduce bills and about how we are going to bring in energy independence by going further and faster on renewables, because that's the only route to us taking down people's bills and bringing about that energy independence. And we would bring in an Energy Independence Act that would set up Great British Energy, a homegrown company that would oversee this, and we would go put rocket boosters under that renewables, whether that's onshore, offshore wind, and all of the other renewables that are open to us as an island nation surrounded by fantastic assets here. And that's the way that we would reduce bills and get energy independence. And this, quite frankly, is a meaningless stunt that will do nothing for those things.
We must leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Ms. Powell. Thank you.